Good afternoon. My name is Daylin Miller-Geiser, and I serve here at the Nixon Library as a docent volunteer. On behalf of the Richard Nixon Presidential Library and Museum, I welcome you to this event this afternoon and thank you for your attendance. Besides being our 37th president, Richard Nixon was also a musician. Not a magician, a musician. He played 5 instruments: piano, accordion, violin, clarinet, and saxophone. Had he not gone to law school, he was considering a career as a concert pianist, and how different his world would have been and our world today as well. But he picked music as an avocation. And his legacy with music continues today with these concerts that are offered every Sunday, free to the community, and we have wonderful musicians that perform, as you will experience shortly. The schedule is posted on the Richard Nixon website. Also, there were copies of it available as you come in, and as you exit the library, there's also a placard that has some handouts in it that you can use as well. I want to bring your attention to a special concert that we have coming up on a Tuesday, July 7th. The 300th Army Band will be performing here, and from what I'm told, it will be here in the East Room, or in Theater 37. And can you imagine how the sound is going to resonate with a band on stage? So it will be something to behold. And there's only 300 seats, 299 in this theater, so you want to make sure that you get here on time if you would like to participate in that. That is part of the schedule as well. And their theme for that concert is America the Beautiful, and that no doubt will be pretty fabulous. That will be at 2 o'clock also. The library is also offering, free to the community, a lecture series. There was one that took place last month about the Declaration of Independence. The one that will be offered in July is on the 11th, on a Saturday, and it's about the Constitution. So it's a panel of experts, and Joanne Chatham, who was with Chapman University and a variety of schools, will be the MC for that. So it'll be informative as well, talking about the Constitution. We're grateful here at the library to Ann Patrick Green and her daughter, Heather Orozco, who are the ones who coordinate the artists for the Sunday afternoon concerts. For your information, restrooms are outside the door to the right. If you want to explore the gardens and galleries of the museum, you'll need to buy an admission sticker at the bookstore. So the sticker for the concert, unfortunately, doesn't get you in to the rest of the events. I advise you, rather than going to start to see the library at 3, they close everything at 5, come back another Sunday earlier and explore the galleries, and also see our fabulous America 250 exhibit that we have with some artifacts that are on loan from some larger institutions and some collectors that speak to our great heritage for the last 250 years. Now I'd ask you to kindly silence your cell phone. And here we roll for today. Our guest artist for today is Dr. Randy Polonaise. Randy's been playing the piano since age 11 and has a bachelor and master's degree from Cal State Fullerton and a doctorate in musical arts and piano performance from the University of North Carolina, Greensboro. Randy performs regularly at venues throughout Southern California in solo programs and with various other artists. He was a frequent pre-concert lecturer for the Philharmonic Society of the Orange County at the concert programs that are held at Segerstrom Center for the Arts. He also performed as a piano soloist with several community orchestras, including 2 different programs with the Claremont Symphony Orchestra. Besides his position as musical concierge at the Philharmonic Society, Randy has also served as accompanist for Temple Beth Israel in Pomona for the last 30 years. Randy has taught music classes at Rio Hondo Community College, Citrus College, Irvine Valley College, and most recently at Fullerton College. And it's our great pleasure to give Randy Polonaise a warm welcome today at the Nixon Library. Thank you.
much. It's so nice to be here. It's a nice group of people here today. This is the third time I've played here at the Nixon Library. The last time was, believe it or not, 4 years ago, in the middle of COVID, so it's just nice to be back here. Such a beautiful facility. I want to get the thank yous out of the way first. Thank you, of course, to Anne Green, who let me play on her concert series, and Heather, to Marcy, Joel, Brooke, and Elle Robinson for help with the program, passing out the programs and designing it. To my friend Barbara, I don't know where you are, I can't see you because of these lights, but for moral support. And to friends and family, all who have come, some who have come from quite a long distance away. And of course to you, the audience who came to be here and hear this program. There's maybe one or two that might have heard this program once before when I did it about a month ago. So I'm going to give some little anecdotes and stories about the pieces that you're going to be hearing, just to kind of illustrate and give you a better idea of what makes this music tick. Of course, I could spend a whole 2 hours talking about that, but in the sake of time, I'll just try to be succinct and clear, try to be brief. So the piece you just heard was a Nocturne by Friedrich Chopin, and this is a form that he cultivated. He didn't invent the form, but he made it his own, and it's, as you can tell, it's very calm, peaceful music of solitude and quiet, and very calming music. Perfect piece to get your nervousness out when you start a program. So the next piece is a completely a bird of a different feather. This is the Polonaise-Fantasie, which Chopin composed literally 3 years before he died. So it's a work of his maturity. He poured his heart and soul into the piece. He was very sick at this time. He had tuberculosis in the final stages. He also is going through a really horrible romantic breakup with the French novelist George Sand. He was also very homesick for Poland. He was living in Paris at the time, and he never got back to see his parents, and he missed them terribly. So it is a very complex work. It seems that if you've never heard it, has anybody heard this piece before? I don't know. No. Okay. It seems like it's a large-scale piece. It is one of his biggest pieces, other than the sonatas. And it's a work that seems to ramble, but there is a logic behind it, a lot of a genius behind it. It wasn't understood by the public when it was premiered, and even to this day, it's not one of the more well-known works that you hear at a concert program by Chopin. It's a shame. And on a personal level, it was quite exciting when I went to Poland last year on a tour. I made a point when I was in Warsaw of going to the Chopin Museum, because that's where he was born, in Warsaw, Poland. And it just so happened that they had on display an actual autographed manuscript of the first couple pages of this piece, which was so cool, to actually see the actual writing by Chopin in this very dim light, and tiny little notes, but you could still detect it was the Polonaise-Fantasie. It's tempting with this piece to kind of make a story around it, which is something Chopin never liked to do, have a narrative. You give a certain character, you assign a certain character to a different theme. It really, in the long run, the piece stands as just pure music by itself. It doesn't need a story behind it. There's a lot of themes in this piece. I'm going to play two of the main themes just so that you have an acquaintance with it, and you'll hear it coming back in different guises throughout the piece. One is the Polonaise theme, and the Polonaise is a particular dance of the nobility in Poland going back to the Middle Ages. It has a particular rhythm, dum da da dum 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 da da dum dum dum. You'll hear it in a second. And then the other is a kind of a lullaby, which I'll play also. It's speculated that this piece was the actual lullaby that Chopin's mother sang to him when he was a baby. We have no proof of that, but in any event, let me play the two themes for you just before we start. Here's the Polonaise. Then the lullaby. wondering why I took my coat off, it's because it's really hot up here, and it really gets warm and it's kind of confining, so I just figured, more casual this way. Good to be comfortable. The next piece is by the Hungarian composer Franz Liszt. Some of you may know him by his famous Hungarian Rhapsody. He was a contemporary of Chopin, but he far outlived him by about 40 years. The two had kind of a very complicated relationship. There was both a mutual admiration and mutual jealousy and competition between the two, but they were completely opposite in temperaments. Chopin was was refined and very kind of snobby at times, for lack of a better word. And everything was just always tasteful and beautiful, as you heard in that piece. Liszt was the theatrical showman. He loved to play to the audience. He wrote brilliant, virtuosic music for the piano. He was the first to play in profile, actually. That had not been done before. So they were just polar opposites. This work, which I'm going to be playing, is called Funerailles. It's composed it's a grand scale. It's considered one of the greatest funeral marches in all of piano repertoire. The other one being, does anybody happen to know, the other famous funeral march? It was by Chopin. Dun, 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 dun. The piece was originally thought to be an elegy to Chopin, who died the same year, because as you can see from the program, it's subtitled October 1849. Chopin died in 1849. But that was not the case. Liszt wrote it as a memorial to 3 of his very close friends who were killed or executed in the Hungarian Revolution of 1848. Funerailles by Franz Liszt. many of you have heard of Aaron Copland? Oh, almost everybody. He's considered the dean of American composers. We have many great American composers, but he's, right at the top. And I had the privilege and honor of seeing him in person at Cal State Fullerton back in the 1970s when he was composer in residence at Cal State Fullerton. So that was really an exciting time. I didn't speak to him, but I heard some of his master classes and working with other students. This piece is probably one of the more challenging ones for you as a listener. It was written in 1930, almost 100 years ago, so it's been around a long time. And I can just make the flat out statement, some of you will like it and some of you will not. But I mean, give it a chance. It may not be your cup of tea the first time you hear it, but it is a piece that I have come to know and dearly love. I played it, about 40 years ago on a graduate recital at Cal State Fullerton, and wanted to recycle it again, and so here we are. This is a piece that is a far cry from what people normally associate with Aaron Copland's music. Those of you that know some of his ballet scores, Appalachian Spring, Billy the Kid, Rodeo, these are all very catchy, melodic, very American sounding pieces that are tuneful, you can sing them, they're just wonderful pieces. This one is not. This was written in the 1920s, an experimental period when Copland was trying to find himself as a composer. He was studying in France. And it's the closest thing he came to writing music that is, I'll use the word atonal, that doesn't have a tonal center. In other words, it's very dissonant sounding. There's a famous story, or anecdote, Leonard Bernstein, who loved Copland's music, particularly loved this piece. And I think he got a primitive delight in bringing it to parties and playing it for people. And he said that the Copland Variations was guaranteed to empty the room in 2 minutes. So you should know that I've instructed the ushers to lock the doors. So nobody can escape. Another funny thing, when I was playing this piece for a gathering last month, one of the listeners came up and says, I heard echoes of West Side Story in that piece. And, for the life of me, all the years I've been playing it, I cannot hear any motifs or anything that resembles West Side Story. Of course, Leonard Bernstein wrote the music for West Side Story, and since he was a friend of Copland's, maybe on some subconscious level he was doing that, but I'll leave it to you if you can hear any resemblances to West Side Story. Now, it's a theme in variations. It's a 7-note theme, but I want you to, when you're listening to it, I'm going to play it in a second, the first 4 notes, E, C, D sharp, C sharp. That's the kernel of the whole piece. Hardly a piece that you can whistle on your way home. So as I say, he subjects this theme to 20 variations and a coda or an ending that sums up everything. What he does is so ingenious, however, with those 4 notes, that little bit of raw material, he reorders the notes, he transposes them to different keys, he turns them upside down, backwards and forwards, all different guises. So be attentive to that when you're hearing the music. This is Copland, Piano Variations of 1930. Did anybody hear any traces of West Side Story? Yeah. Really? Yeah. We'll have to talk to you about that. Okay, for the last two numbers, we're going to shift gears completely, going back to the American Songbook with George Gershwin. He and his brother Ira they basically dominated Broadway from the 20s and the 30s, 24 to 1937. They were one of the most successful songwriting teams in all of American history. Unfortunately for George, his life was snuffed out at a tragically early age of 38. He died of an aggressive form of brain cancer. Similar to, if any of you know the conductor of the San Francisco Symphony, Michael Tilson Thomas, same kind of brain cancer, but the treatments we have today are better. And I'm just going to tell you a couple of stories about these two pieces that I'm doing. These are from Gershwin shows, Liza and My One and Only. Ira Gershwin was a friend of Vincente Minnelli, and Judy Garland. They were a married couple. That was their first marriage. He was their best man at their wedding, and also the godfather of their child, who was Liza Minnelli. So as a tribute to their friendship, they named their daughter after the song, the Gershwin song, Liza. Which I didn't know. I have to confess, I did not know that. This is Gershwin's own solo piano arrangement. By the way, he was an incredible pianist. If you ever have a chance to hear, there's one actual video of Gershwin playing. It's authentic. He recorded it in 1931. It's on YouTube. I would urge you to check it out. It's the only one we have of him playing. He's playing I Got Rhythm on the YouTube. The other song, My One and Only, which we'll close with, is a note-for-note transcription of an old acoustical recording of Gershwin. Don't forget that back in the 20s, acoustical recording phonographs were in their infancy, and so the sound quality was quite inferior to today's standards. So Ardis Wodehouse is a musicologist. She sat down and must have listened to the recording of Gershwin playing it 1,000,000 times and transcribed it note for note on paper. I think today, if we did this, with AI and everything, you could probably do it through that. But she did it all by hand, listening to the recording over and over again and writing it down because it was never published. It was just on the recording. One last thing to say is that if you ever hear great singers sing Gershwin songs like Ella Fitzgerald, Sarah Vaughan, Tony Bennett, they tend to sing a little bit more slow, leisurely tempos, particularly the ballads, whereas Gershwin's piano arrangements are more up-tempo and upbeat, faster, and that's due to the song arrangements of the dance bands of the time, in the 1920s. Charleston was in full vogue back then, and so that's a reflection of the time. So Liza and My One and Only. just so happen to have an encore. You never know. It's a handy. Short piece by Schumann Symphonic Etude. Not yet. Oh. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Al. Thank you, Al. privilege to play here. Hope it's not 4 more years till I play again. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.